best of seven series for
a best of seven series.
Welcome to the Best of Seven podcast.
Welcome to the Best of Seven podcast. I am your host, Brandon Plant from SENS. In this episode, number 6 of the Best of Seven podcast, we are going to break down every single pick. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, every single pick of the first round of the 2020 National Football League draft. We're also going to talk about the biggest trades on the day, including the best left tackle in the league getting traded to yours truly, the 49ers, as well some notable second rounders. But firstly, we have to open up with some very unfortunate, sad, and tragic news. In Nova Scotia earlier this week, the worst mass shooting in Canadian history transpired. A tragedy. 23 people, including Constable Heidi Stevenson of the RCMP, tragically were murdered for absolutely no reason. Our thoughts and prayers with the people of Nova Scotia at this time, a terrible time, and hopefully one day we'll get the answers to why this tragedy took place. A terrible thing. Thoughts and prayers with the families of the victims at this time. Moving forward, though, with some brighter, happier stories. The sports stories of the week. Firstly, Wake Forest. They fired their basketball coach, Danny Manning. Secondly, Kobe Bryant, continuing with the basketball trend. Kobe Bryant, in his final year in the National Basketball Association, had a film crew follow him. Just like Michael Jordan with the Last Dance documentary, it looks like we may get a documentary of Kobe Bryant. I can't wait to see that when it eventually comes out. In some more unfortunate news, Dak Prescott's brother, at the age of 31, unfortunately passed away. So our thoughts and prayers with Prescott and his family at the time. Moving forward now with quarterbacks, Tom Brady accidentally entered a stranger's home in Tampa Bay. This guy got lost in the park. This guy's getting lost here. It makes sense after being 20 plus years in Boston to get lost in a new city. But wow, I have never walked into a stranger's home. Noah, have you?
No, never.
Yeah, I don't really know how that happened. I don't know. Tom Brady is skilled in many ways, and it looks like he's also skilled in walking to other people's homes. But he's the GOAT, and I'm sure he was forgiven. Moving forward now, Columbus and Toronto with the National Hockey League. They're working on a neutral site response to the COVID-19 so they can continue the National Hockey League season. And no update yet, but it looks like they're aggressively trying to push for Toronto and Columbus as the cities for hosting neutral site games. Speaking of Columbus, the Blue Jackets signed goaltender Elvis Brzezzinski to a 2-year, $8 million deal, 4 years, $4 million per year. So congratulations to him. He really did well in his first full season in the National Hockey League. Moving forward now, back to the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys drafted Ottawa, Ontario native Neville Gallimore, 82nd overall. Congratulations to him. He's representing the city and the Ottawa Senators very well. Congratulations to him and his family. Hopefully you dominate in the NFL. It's not enough to beat the Eagles and my 49ers. Speaking of my 49ers, a huge trade today. Couple of sad news about it's a bittersweet. We'll get to it in a second. But firstly, the San Francisco 49ers pulled off a blockbuster trading for offensive tackle Trent Williams from the Washington Redskins. The Redskins acquired a 2020 fifth rounder, 156 overall, and a 2021 third rounder in exchange for Trent Williams to the 49ers. Now, ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that Williams is expected to restructure the following year of his contract, which is currently at $12.5 million per year. For the final year. So that's great news for the 49ers because they have a lot of cap issues. Also, Trent Williams is one of the best tackles in the league. A 7-time Pro Bowler, Trent Williams will immensely help the Niners' run game and protection of Jimmy G at the left tackle position. Williams, at the age of 31, did not play any games for the Redskins last year after demanding a trade on June 5th, 2019. That's a whole saga. There's a whole reason, medical stuff. The teams apparently lied to him about some things. It's not a good look on the Redskins, but Williams is finally on a team that he can trust his medical staff. The 49ers are top class. Over the last 3 regular seasons, 2016 to 2018, Williams has graded out as the National Football League's top 3 left tackle, a third with 89.1 grade. He trails only David Bakhtai and Joe Staley, which we'll get to unfortunately in a second, over that span, being out notable players like Andrew Whitworth and divisional rival Tyron Smith. Speaking of Joe Staley, the 49ers legend, the 2007 first rounder, 13-year career, all with the 49ers, 6 Pro Bowls, a member of the 2010 All-Decade Team, a future Hall of Famer for sure, Joe Staley has retired. An unfortunate but understandable decision by Joe Staley. As a longtime 49ers fan, all I got to say is thank you. You absolutely dominated with Alex Smith. You absolutely dominated with Colin Kaepernick. You even dominated with Blaine Gabbert behind you. So honestly, I hope nothing but the best in your retirement. You've earned it. You're a Hall of Famer, and hopefully one day you will come back to the Niners organization in some capacity as a coach or executive. But I want to congratulate Joe Staley on a great career with the Niners and hopefully a great retirement for him. Moving forward now with the Niners, I know lots of Niners news today. Running back Matt Breida traded to the Miami Dolphins, not the Minnesota Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins, pardon me, for a 5th rounder, 153rd overall, which ended up being West Virginia's offensive tackle Colton McKivitz. Bad trade in my opinion. I thought Breida had better value. However, the Niners, they get an offensive tackle, help replace Staley there. They also got Trent Williams, so I guess it's a wish-wash. They also have Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon, so it makes sense. I just thought the value was higher than a 5th rounder. In 2019, Matt Breida played in 13 games, rushed for 623 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. He also got a touchdown, but a lot of play was stemmed off due to injuries. So he could have had a much more explosive career season, but injuries stopped him from doing so. So the Dolphins are getting a much better player than the stats show. He's probably a 1,000-yard rusher if you play him as your RB1. He has a lot of speed. He's a really good player. In 2019 receiving yards, he got 120 of them. Receptions, he got 19, and he also got a touchdown. This move clears $3.2 million worth of cap space for the 49ers, so that's great as well. Moving forward now, the Eagles and your 49ers made a trade that we both called. I and Noah, we both called this move. Marquise Goodwin and a 6th rounder, which ended up being one of the biggest steals of the draft, in my opinion. Offensive tackle Prince Tega Wanogwu goes to the Eagles, and the Niners receive 190 overall. Who they took was to tight end Charlie Warner out of Georgia. You know, he's a blocker. Nice move, I guess. Marquise Goodwin for the Eagles. He's a speedy guy. His 2019 year looked like this: 12 receptions, 186 yards, and 1 touchdown. That was primarily due to a season-ending injury where his knee got injured. He's an explosive player. He's an Olympic athlete, and he's going to catch a lot of balls for you down the field with either Wentz or Jalen Hurts throwing the ball to him. Noah, what a draft this was. You know, it was nice. Yeah. It was nice to get some live sports back in it. It's nice to talk about some legit news, not just made-up stuff. We're talking about legit things that are going to affect teams for years to come. The first round of the 2020 National Football League draft, it will reshape many teams for years to come. Speaking of reshaping teams, first overall, Joe Burrow to the Cincinnati Bengals, 6'3", 221 pounds. This guy is an absolute stud. He won the Heisman Trophy in 2019, throwing 5,671 yards for LSU, compiling 60 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and he had a 202 quarterback rating. It was a college football record, 60 touchdown pass. It was never been done before, 60 touchdown passes in a college football season. And, of course, this was an obvious pick. The Bengals need something to inject life into that franchise, and Joe Burrow is going to do that. He brings a raw physicality to the team. He reminds me sort of a Carson Wentz type of guy who will put his body on the line through in and throughout. He will run in, and he will take the hit for the team. Guy has a strong arm as well. Noah, what do you think about Joe Burrow? This guy is the real deal, going first overall to the Bengals, in my opinion.
100%. I think he's a really good. Obviously, he was the pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. I will say we'll get to this later, but I do not think he was the best quarterback talent of the draft.
Oh,
we will talk about him later. Okay. We will talk about him later, but that being said, he had a phenomenal, one of the best senior years in college history. 60 touchdowns is nothing to joke about.
No, it's not.
And that was insane. He threw 6 touchdowns in the championship game against Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers as he led the LSU college football team to the national title win. Very good performance by Joe Burrow. Obviously, he has an accurate arm. He's extremely athletic, and he obviously can command an offense. I think he's going to fit right in with Cincinnati. I think he's going to be one of the top QBs in the NFL. And he's going to really, like you said, inject some life into that franchise.
Much needed.
Much needed. Very. much needed. Yes.
I just think for Joe Burrow, this is a great fit for him. He's got a team now that's going to be built around him. The team, the cupboard there is very bare. They can now build the team around their quarterback of the future. That is, very rare. You look at Johnny Manziel. Some of these teams have futility. They don't really do anything. I have hope in Cincinnati. I hope they don't mess this up. Joe Burrow, congratulations to the Bengals. You guys have a shot.
All right, number 2 now. We go to Washington, a division rival, but I mean, they suck, so they deserve that second overall pick. Chase Young, defensive end. He might be the most talented overall player in the draft.
I think so.
It was a big positional need as well. 16 and a half sacks. That's crazy. 21 tackles for loss. 7 forced fumbles in just 12 games for the Ohio State.
Yeah, baby.
And, man, he was crazy as the prototype build of an all-pro pass rusher compared to Julius Peppers, and that's really good company for him. He joins Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne on a really good-looking Redskins D-line, and I'm pretty scared for the Philadelphia Eagles, although I do think that we have a good O-line for that, but I think that's a really good-looking D-line for the Washington Redskins. Obviously, he's had multiple defensive accolades in 2019, multiple awards, undisputed All-American, all Big Ten team. Brandon, take on Chase Young to the Washington Redskins.
Well, as a 49ers fan, I'm very privileged to see what a defensive end that's full of skill can do against a National Football League offensive tackle. And Chase Young is going to dominate every single snap. Every single play, you're going to see Chase Young get this close to sacking the quarterback. He reminds me of Nick Bosa. The explosiveness off the snap is insane. His height at 6'5" and his weight at 264 pounds is absolutely insane. Like you said, the best overall talent in the draft, I'd agree. I think Joe Burrow should have went first overall, but Chase Young, I think, has the most talent in this draft as a whole. He has the whole thing figured out, and I think it's going to really translate to the Washington Redskins defense. I think it's going to really help them get some results on the field just like that. I think Chase Young is going to be one of those players that we watch defensively for years to come. He is a transcendent talent, and I'm excited to see what he can do with the Redskins. And, a team now that's looking much better with Ron Rivera coach. Let's see what can happen there. Moving forward now with the Detroit Lions, cornerback Jeff Okudah, 3rd overall. I love this guy. 6'1", 205 pounds. Last year, he got 3 interceptions, 9 passes defended, 1 forced fumble as a cornerback, yes, ladies and gentlemen, in 13 games in 2019 for the Ohio State. He's extremely athletic. He has the size, impressive ball skills, and a sub-4.5 40-yard dash. The guy has great speed. He's a ideal number 1 cornerback for a team that just lost Darius Slay. They did sign Desmond Trufant as well, but now they have the best young corner in the draft in Jeff Okudah. With the cornerback here for Jeff Okudah for the Detroit Lions, they're getting, like I said, the best cornerback in the draft. Honestly, when they lose Darius Slay and then they inject Desmond Trufant and Jeff Okudah, I think this is a win for the Detroit Lions. They got some nice picks for Darius Slay, and now they have a young, transcendent talent in the backfield in Jeff Okudah. He is an anonymous All-American in 2019. Noah, I think you can agree. If you don't have a good corner, you're not going to have a good team. You got to stop those number 1 wide receivers, and Jeff Okudah is just going to do that in the National Football League. He's going to stop those number 1 wide receivers.
Agreed. As an Eagles fan in 2019, I got to see what a terrible secondary does for you. And now that they have locked down 2 phenomenal cornerbacks, you got Jeff Okudah, you got Desmond Trufant. That's a really good balanced secondary for the Detroit Lions. There were talks about them trading down, and they just couldn't get the right fit in terms of compensation. But I think Jeff Okudah is a great pick for the Detroit Lions. I think he will be one of the best cornerbacks in the league for years to come.
I think I have a feeling that trade didn't go through because I think the Chargers weren't willing to give up what the Lions wanted. I'm just speculating, but the Chargers weren't willing to give up what the Lions wanted, and the Miami Dolphins weren't going to move because they knew the Giants were going to take Tua, who is still available. So the Miami Dolphins were fine, and the Chargers weren't giving it up. So I think that's why the Lions stood pat and took Okudah, not Junior, pardon me. But it was a great pick, and honestly, you couldn't go wrong. You either get some more picks and move down a bit, or you get a premier cornerback. So it's a win-win for the Lions.
Yeah, great pick for them. Number 4, offensive tackle Andrew Thomas going to the New York Giants now. The New York Giants, to me, I'm so happy that they're in the same division as us.
You are.
The only thing that they have going for them right now is that they have a good running back. Past that, I mean, he wasn't even the best offensive tackle in the draft, in my opinion. We will get to him, who fell soon. But he does have some upsides. Of course, he's a 4th overall pick. He can't be that bad. He has strong hands. He can play on both sides of the line, which is very good. He has versatility. Daniel Jones did lead the NFL in fumbles last season, so him having more protection was an essential need for the New York Giants.
Yes, they filled it.
He did have the Jacobs Blocking Trophy as the best blocker in the entire conference, which is a very prestigious award for an offensive tackle who don't really get much media coverage. So that's a good award for the offensive tackle Andrew Thomas. He's a unanimous All-American, 2-time first-team All-SEC. He's a great offensive tackle. As a Giants fan, if I was a Giants fan, I'd be disappointed because you do not get the best offensive tackle in the draft in the popular opinion. But you got to look at the positives, and that's protection for Daniel Jones. They didn't do anything stupid. They didn't go and draft a guy like Tua or Justin Herbert or anything. They kept in course. They just might not have gotten the right guy.
I think if you're a Giants fan and you're getting really mad at this pick, I think you're stretching a tiny bit. That's just my opinion. I agree. This was not the best offensive tackle in the league in this draft part of me. However, if you're a Giants fan, just be appreciative that David Gettleman is not doing something to completely ruin your team. Last year, Daniel Jones, for example, that was shocking. I think Andrew Thomas was a mid-first rounder, probably would have fell to 13 to 16, probably around there. So it's a little bit of a reach, but if you like the guy, you take the guy. We've seen that with Draft Day in the movie for Vontae Mack always. That's a movie reference. But for the Giants, they took their guy. You know, it is what it is. You guys got an offensive tackle. You needed it, and hopefully he works out. Moving forward now, the prize of the draft after Joe Burrow, some speculate, Tua Tagovailoa to the Miami Dolphins. They tanked. They won 5 games still. Fitzpatrick messed up the tank, and they still ended up getting Tua. The Dolphins had a fantastic draft. We'll get to that later. But right now, Tua, he is a Miami Dolphin, and the Dolphins suddenly have a chance to really compete in the National Football League. At 6 feet, 217 pounds, Tua Tagovailoa is honestly, potentially, the best quarterback in the draft if he can stay healthy. I'm going to say that. I love Joe Burrow. I love what he can do. Tua has the skills to be a top 5 quarterback in the next 2 years. I'm not kidding. In the next year or two, this guy is such a stud. He threw 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and added 206.9 rating in 9 games in 2019 for the Alabama Crimson Tide with Nick Saban. Unfortunately, he's coming off a serious hip injury and has battled injury problems before, but his recovery process has been excellent. He's only missed 4 games in his NCAA career, I believe, due to injuries. So he has a lot of injuries, but he plays through them and he does really well. So that says something about his talent. He has a quick release, excellent mid-range accuracy, and he's really light on his feet. He can really roll the pocket and throw that ball deep. He looks kind of like Russell Wilson. He kind of looks like Tony Romo when he stands in the pocket. This guy can just do it all. He's the Cowboys, the quarterback of the future, for the Miami Dolphins. And you know what? I like this a lot. They get their quarterback, and they are ready to start building for the future.
So, yeah, they actually tanked for Tua.
Yes, sir.
Exactly how we projected it to be, but they did indeed tank for Tua. And I did say before, I didn't think Joe Burrow was the best talent in the draft. I think it is Tua. You just look at what he's done over the past 2-3 years, how he's just carried the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's had great performances. He had a great performance in 2018. Almost took them to the championship. Almost. They lost to Clemson, but he is a phenomenal talent. And if that hip injury didn't happen, we could see Tua Tagovailoa on the Cincinnati Bengals.
He'd be first for sure.
Yeah, he would have been first overall 100%. No, and that's why I say that he is the best talent. He has multiple years of phenomenal talent being shown. And for me, Joe Burrow has one. And although it was the best in history, I think two beats one in terms of consistency, in terms of you see everything from Tua. I'm just I'm like a tiny bit scared for Joe Burrow, but I think he'll be just fine.
I think Tua Tagovailoa is the ultimate boomer bust pick. He has all the talent in the world, and he's being selected in the top 5 of the National Football League draft. However, those injury concerns are legitimate. They're legitimate concerns. And I think if he can stay healthy, this is going to be a boom pick. Going to be it's probably going to be the best pick of the draft with the talent that he has. But the injury concerns could also make this a bust. And not because he doesn't have the talent, because the injuries will catch up to him. We've seen that many times in athletes, unfortunately. And hopefully it doesn't happen, but this is an ultimate boomer bust pick, in my opinion.
For sure. That is true. He's a boomer bust pick. Yeah. You just got to hope right now. You hope for Tua. You hope for the Dolphins, who had a really good draft, that they made the best pick, and they made the best pick of the draft. Moving on, another QB, number 6, Justin Herbert goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. 6'6". He's massive, 236 pounds.
A little taller than me.
Just a little bit, huh?
A little bit.
What are you, 5'10"?
Yeah, 5'10", 6'6". It's pretty close to it's pretty close.
They're pretty close. Maybe you can join the NFL draft one day. 3,471 yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in 2019 for the Oregon Ducks. Ideal size for a QB. If the Denver Broncos did not have a QB and they were 6 overall, John Elway would be pressing this guy so hard. He's the ideal big, tall, white guy at QB.
Exactly.
But he got drafted by the Chargers, was a top 5 projected pick in 2019, but then he surprised everyone by returning to Oregon for a 4th year. But he did get a Rose Bowl championship out of it. Touch and accuracy are a couple of weaknesses, but this guy does look very, very promising. There were questions about his leadership as well, but he had a very strong Senior Bowl and a very strong combine, so those questions were answered. And they needed a future QB, the Chargers. They just lost Phillip Rivers. They would have probably drafted one anyways, because Phillip Rivers is towards the end of his career. But I don't think Tyrod Taylor was going to be it for the Chargers. And having this guy, Justin Herbert, now as their future, I think their future is in good hands.
I agree. When we spoke about the NFL offseason and we mentioned Hunter Henry as one of the tags for the Chargers, I mentioned who is going to throw to Hunter Henry. And now we have the answer. Is it going to be Justin Herbert, or is it going to be Tyrod Taylor? I'm interested to see what the Chargers do with this pick. Do they let Tyrod Taylor groom him into becoming an elite talent in the NFL at a quarterback position that's needing a lot of elite talent? Or are they going to put him and throw him to the Wolves in year number 1? I'm interested to see. I think they're going to put Tyrod Taylor in and let them groom Justin Herbert, because he has the raw skill, the raw athleticism, and the raw arm strength. I think they just need to groom him, give him a year, just like sort of like, I'm not comparing him to Patrick Mahomes, but like what happened with Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith in Kansas. I'd like to see them do something sort of similar so they can really get the best version of Justin Herbert at the NFL level. Moving forward now with the Carolina Panthers, who only drafted defense. Matt Rule, the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers, mentioned, and they did, that they needed to address that brutal defense in Carolina. It's brutal. It's terrible. And 7 selections in this draft, all defensive players. One of the best ones here. Derek Brown, 7th overall, defensive tackle out of Auburn. He's 6'5", 326 pounds. He's a big boy. He got 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles in 12 games with Auburn in 2019. He has an elite size, which can force the opposing O-line to double team him. Agility is in question. However, he's also known to adapt well in a diverse scheme. So it's interesting to see and mention that, because Matt Rule is bringing a whole new scheme to Carolina, and hopefully with the defensive coordinator they'll work something into favor of Derek Brown to lead that defensive tackle and that defense as a whole into getting many more sacks in the NFL. He's going to help this Panthers defense. They were ranked 31st in the NFL last year. Miami, who is purposely losing, was 32nd. It was a disaster. The Niners put up 53 points or 58 points, I believe, on Carolina last year. And you know what? As the SEC Defensive Player of the Year in 2019 and named to the 2019 All-SEC team, the Carolina Panthers are getting a talent that they need on the front end in the defensive aspect of things. And I think Derek Brown's going to really help the Panthers limit those scoring abilities for the teams next year.
I think the big thing, I wish that the Carolina Panthers did one or two things for the offense, but you can't be wrong. You can't be mad at this. I mean, 31st in the NFL, you really got to revamp that entire defense. So drafting all defensive players, I can't blame Matt Rule whatsoever. It was this pick was the right pick, and this move for all defense was a smart one. They have addressed offense. They got Teddy Bridgewater in the offseason. They've got Robbie Anderson in free agency as well. They've addressed the offense, but they really needed to address this defense, and Derek Brown is a big, big piece to that. Moving forward, linebacker/safety Isaiah Simmons goes 8th overall to the Arizona Cardinals. Going to tear apart that San Francisco D-line for years and years to come. 6'4", 238 pounds. He's a freak, this guy.
He is a freak.
3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles in 2019 for Clemson. This guy's a freak of an athlete. Absolutely, arguably, not absolutely, but arguably the best athlete in the entire draft. He just has all of the athleticism you would want. Perfect build for a defender. Can play many positions, linebacker, safety, any positions within those. And it helps the Cardinals because they did have the 5th worst defense in 2019. This, again, like Derek Brown, was a big step for the Arizona Cardinals to improve and rebuild that defense. He obviously won the national championship in 2018 with Clemson, ACC Defensive Player of the Year in 2019, and unanimous All-American in 2019. And he also, as a linebacker, ran a 4.39 in the 40-yard dash, which, again, adds to his freak of an athlete resume. Brandon, what's your take?
My take is pretty simple. I'm scared. The Cardinals are getting a talented player that can play literally any position. He's a utility player in the National Football League. This guy is a freak. And when I say freak, I say it in the most polite way possible. This guy can terrorize your offensive line. This guy can terrorize your wide receivers and running backs and tight ends. I love Isaiah Simmons. He has all the confidence in the world. He believes that I believe he said that he's like worth like 4 players on one team. Yeah. This guy's insane. The 4.39 40-yard dash at 238 pounds is nothing to shy away from. This guy's got the speed. He's got the skill. I'm telling you, it's going to translate to the NFL. This is a great pick for the Arizona Cardinals, who just revamped that offense. Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray's first overall pick from a year or two ago. Now they're getting one of the premier defensive talents. The Cardinals are on the upswing, which is bad news for my 49ers. Moving forward now with another defensive player, cornerback C.J. Henderson, 9th overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, staying in Florida, his home state. He played college football with the Florida Gators. In 2019 with the Florida Gators, he defended 11 passes and tackled 3 times for a loss in 9 games. So 3 tackles for a loss in 2019 for the Florida Gators. He has phenomenal burst speed to make up ground, but ball locating has been in question. But he is a phenomenal cover cornerback. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the draft, obviously after Okudah. Without a doubt, he is the best cornerback in the draft. However, C.J. Henderson is exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars need. Now, I won't say Gordon Ramsay. Jalen Ramsey is finally replaced with a legitimate, talented cornerback, C.J. Henderson. They lost A.J. Boy. They lost Jalen Ramsey. So this pick sort of makes up for their losses. I don't really understand what the Jaguars are doing. They're trying to trade away Leonard Fournette. I don't quite understand that. The Jaguars are a mess. So all the best to C.J. Henderson. He's a talented player, and hopefully it works out for him in Jacksonville. But really, honestly, I don't know what Jacksonville is doing right now.
Oh, me neither. They're trading away all these guys. They've traded Campbell. They're trying to trade now. You said Leonard Fournette and also Yannick Ngakoue. The Jaguars are I think they're in the midst of a massive, massive rebuild, which is unfortunate because of how good they have been. They were in 2017 when they almost went to the Super Bowl. But moving forward now, the actual best offensive tackle in the draft, in my opinion, Jedrick Wills, Cleveland Browns offensive tackle, 6'4", 312, plays a very smart brand of football. He's one of the smartest guys out of this draft, in my personal opinion. He plays very smart, and for an offensive tackle with a bunch of big 6'5" guys coming at you, having a bit of a brain is a good idea for Jedrick Wills. And he's ridiculously strong again as an offensive tackle. We cannot stress enough the very important qualities: a big football brain, and he's ridiculously strong, plays right side, but he will play the left for Cleveland, which has been an issue since Joe Thomas retired. He might have been the best left tackle in the entire league at that time.
I say Joe Thomas is one of the best tackles after Joe Staley. Joe Staley is a that's just a fact, though. That is a fact. That is a fact. I'm biased, but that is a fact. Joe Staley is one of the best left tackles the league has seen in many years. Trent Williams as well. I'm not going to say Trent Williams is better. I haven't really looked at the stats, but I will say Joe Staley is the best left tackle. I'll let you continue. I just want to say that.
I tend to disagree, but we'll agree to disagree there. Joe Staley left a big hole at left tackle for the Cleveland Browns. He won the national championship, Jedrick Wills, with Alabama in 2017, and was a first-team All-SEC in 2019. There's nothing bad about this guy. He plays a very smart brand of football, and that's what the Cleveland Browns need. They need someone with a little bit of a noggin in there after whatever that was last year. So, Brandon, what do you think?
Well, what I think is, when I think of this pick, I think of the Cleveland Browns finally drafting for need. They needed an offensive tackle. The Cleveland Browns allowed so many sacks last year. They allowed so many rushing opportunities against Baker Mayfield. This guy was running for his life every single play. And he's not built for that. He's built to pass in the pocket and roll out if he wants. You need a strong offensive line to allow him to play his game, and this is the first step to building that. I'm happy they're doing it. I want to see the Browns succeed because those fans deserve a championship team, for God's sake. That team is brutal. Next year, hopefully, they change it and they start to compete. And I want to see the Browns in the playoffs. I want to see the Browns in the playoffs. I think it would be an unreal atmosphere because by the time I'm sure they'll have fans in the stadiums. So I love to see the Browns in the playoffs and a phenomenal crowd there in Cleveland begging for a Lombardi trophy. Moving forward now, offensive tackle again. I think this guy was the third best guy. I think I will get to my best guy. He went 13th overall, but second in my ratings for tackles was Wills, and now third is Mekhi Becton going to the New York Jets, 11th overall, 6'7", 375 pounds. It's a little bit of an understatement, but the guy is big. He's huge. You cannot move him. He's a huge at the tackle position, and it's quite nimble for his size. O-line was a huge problem for the New York Jets. They had the fourth most allowed sacks in 2019, including 10 sacks allowed against the Eagles in Week 5. 10 sacks, really.
That was insane. They had their backup goal. They had backup quarterbacks. My bad. But they had Luke Falk, and then they had this other guy who we've never heard of before. They got smashed by the Eagles.
But this move does two things. It protects the quarterback Sam Darnold, the future of the New York Jets organization, and it as well opens up the space for Le'Veon Bell to finally flourish and do his thing. Last year was really underwhelming with the New York Jets with this offensive tackle. Hopefully that opens up more space for him to create plays. Noah, what do you think?
I think that's 100% right. They've needed some protection for Sam Darnold, who missed a few games because of a couple injuries, whether they were football related or not. Obviously not mono, but you always want to be careful. Le'Veon Bell, he obviously had no room to run. Like you said, he had an underwhelming 2019 season, and I think that the New York Jets, they showed it at the end of the season last year, but they could be on the rise. I would love to see the New York Jets make a push for potentially a division title. I don't think it's going to happen, but if they pushed for it, at least showing some life in that franchise. Sure. We haven't seen that in a while. Yeah. But it looks like right now, spoiler, the Buffalo Bills are going to take it.
Buffalo is just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. But number 12, Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver, goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. I said it right. Let's go. 5'11", 188 pounds, 746 receiving yards, 7 reception touchdowns, and 12 games for Alabama. Just part of that stacked Alabama dynasty of that 3 or 4 years. something about him, man. Elite speed and acceleration. He has excellent hands, which is coveted by many teams for wide receivers. Like the Eagles, we will get to them soon, but they did get a lot of guys that have elite speed and acceleration. That's literally all they got in this draft. He joins Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and Tyrell Williams in a scary-looking offense for the Raiders. The problem, I didn't mention a quarterback. I did not mention a quarterback. They still have no one to throw to them. It's going to be either Marcus Mariota or Derek Carr, and maybe instead of the quarterback elevating the team, maybe it's the team elevating the quarterback. And
I think that's what we're going to see.
National championship with Alabama in 2017. Brandon, the first of the 3 wide receivers that we thought would go early in the draft, goes at number 12 to the Raiders. What's your take?
My take is pretty simple. As a 49ers fan, when Ruggs was taken, I'm like, he was my 3rd wide receiver on the board anyways. Either I wanted Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. They just were more attractive to me in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Ruggs, though, is a tremendous talent for the Oakland Raiders, and this was the right pick. You don't let one of these 3 guys pass. You don't pass up on one of these 3 guys unless you have a really good reason. For the Raiders, like I mentioned with Mariota, I'm not convinced about them. With Derek Carr, consistency issues. So I'm worried about who's going to give them the ball. The offensive line, are they going to be able to hold for the quarterbacks? Too many questions. They have the tools to be a solid offense. Now they just need to have the quarterback to do what needs to be done. Moving forward now, 13th overall, with, in my opinion, the best lineman in the draft, best tackle in the draft. Tristan Wirfs goes 13th overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after they traded up with the 49ers swapping spots, so Niners got 14th overall. Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, 6'5", 320 pounds. This guy is an absolutely athletic beast. He has hard to find athleticism for his size. He's 320 pounds. He ran a 4.85 40-yard dash, ladies and gentlemen. That might be faster than me, and I'm nowhere near close to 320 pounds. If this guy is running under 5 seconds on a 40-yard dash and he's carrying 320 pounds of weight, this guy with protecting Tom Brady was the right pick. His athleticism is unheard of for a guy of this size and magnitude. This is why I thought he was the best offensive talent, tackle talent in the draft. And I think the Buccaneers really did well here. They're getting a top tackle to protect their prize, Tom Brady. Noah, what do you think?
I think that Tristan Wirfs was surprisingly the 4th tackle to go, which for me, I did not like. I had him as my 2nd best offensive tackle. Obviously, first is Wills, but I do like this move a lot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like you said, nimble. He has a 4.85 40-yard dash at 320 pounds, but this guy can move. If so he needs to follow Tom Brady whenever Tom Brady runs out of the pocket like he does so often,
or runs into somebody else's home. One of the two.
Yeah.
Next time Tom Brady runs into somebody else's home, Tristan Wirfs is right there to block everyone out of the way for him.
But it's a great pick for Tampa Bay. They needed more. You need to be a little bit more wary about Brady. He's getting up in his mid-40s now, and you just don't want any injuries to happen. Great move for Tampa Bay. But Brandon, this next one is yours, all yours.
Before we get to this pick, I want to say 2 things. One, I thought at the time this was a great pick for talent. I just thought they should have taken a wide receiver. Let's go ahead and take a look at my instant reaction to this selection. It was funny. Faithful now, faithful then. Let's go, baby.
14th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft.
Come on, Niner gang.
The San Francisco 49ers select Javon Kinlaw.
Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious?
Well, perhaps another surprise, but Javon Kinlaw is one hell of a football
Oh my god, man. He's a good prospect, but Jeudy and fucking Lamb are right there. Oh my god, man.
He split time.
So that was my reaction. As I mentioned in the video, Javon Kinlaw is a talented beast. I just prefer CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy. I was concerned that Brandon Ayuk, Justin Jefferson wouldn't be available at our next first rounder, so I was pissed off because we needed to get a wide receiver to replace Emmanuel Sanders. It worked out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm okay. Trust the process with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. this defensive tackle of Javon Kinlaw is going to replace DeForest Buckner. At 6'5", 324 pounds, he is an elite talent going on to an elite defensive line. The defensive line in San Francisco gets even more scary somehow. Somehow, offensive linemen need to be even more scared of the Niners' front four. In 2019, he had 6 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. He's a first all-team SEC in 2019. He's huge, athletic, powerful pass rusher, and he will replace one of my favorite former players on the Niners, DeForest Buckner. And you know what? This pick, they traded DeForest Buckner because they couldn't afford him, and they replaced him with a younger, talented, cheap option. I love this for the Niners, the way this has worked out with their other selection in the first round. He has some knee injury concerns, however, but the team and himself says it shouldn't be a problem. A little concerning. We saw that with Solomon Thomas, another first rounder. He's sort of a depth guy now. I don't think that's going to happen with Javon Kinlaw. When I watch him, I watch a guy that has explosiveness, speed, athleticism, and skill. I think he's going to be one of the best or one of the most dominating defensive tackles on this team, and I'm really excited to see what he can do in the future. Noah, what do you think about this guy? You're going to be hearing a lot about him in the future because I'm a Niners fan.
Hey, yeah, that's a really good pick. The main theme, as you will see, as we've seen before and as we will continue to see for the Niners, was to patch up the holes that they lost by losing a couple of guys. DeForest Buckner, Joe Staley we've talked about. We're going to talk about another hole that was left by another player who left soon. But it was a good move by the 49ers management, I think.
In hindsight.
They needed to replace DeForest Buckner. They didn't need to, but it was a good idea. It keeps the Niners just as scary as they were last year, and I got to give it to them. It's a good pick for San Francisco. He did have those injury concerns, but he said it was not going to be an issue, and they took him 14th overall, and Brandon was happy from the first second.
Bang, bang, Niner gang. No, just to clarify, if you saw my reaction, I wasn't happy. Noah, we were talking. I wasn't happy. I wanted Jerry Jeudy. I wanted CeeDee Lamb. But looking at this pick more, Javon Kinlaw is exactly what the Niners need to replace a hole that keeps them competitive and keeps them doesn't regress them at all. It keeps them at the same elite talent as they had last year defensively. And it worked out at the wide receiver position. I will never doubt Shanahan and Lynch again. These guys continue to impress. Noah, let's move on.
Yeah, number 15, we got Jerry Jeudy, number 2 of the 3, those 3 elite wide receivers. It's not looking good for you.
It's so sad, man.
15th overall to the Denver Broncos. It astounds me of these 2 teams I actually don't know what the division is, but the one with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders, they might look like the best division next year because look at what they got now. 6'1", 193 for Jerry Jeudy. Look at it. Just give me a second. Let me explain myself.
West, hold on. Wow.
1,163 yards, 10 touchdowns in 13 games for Alabama. Again, Alabama. Holy moly. Great route runner, excellent burst. He's a bit slim, but that's something a lot of prospects build in the NFL. Another weapon for the Broncos offense, which already includes, hold your breath, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, and they drafted KJ Hamler in the 2nd round. That offense is looking phenomenal. You add that to my take before. You add that to my take before. You got the Raiders, who have added so much to that offense. Although quarterback's a question, I do see them as the bottom team in that division, but they have elite offensive weapons all over the place. They have the Broncos, who have just added so much more. You obviously have the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Los Angeles Chargers, who have a new quarterback and are kind of on the upswing now. They're sort of on the tail end of that rebuild. So for me, that's what I see from this division. I think it's going to be a phenomenal division. Either the NFC West or that division are the best 2 in the NFL. But I love this pick, Brandon. What do you think?
Well, I'll say 2 things. I'll comment first on your hot take about this being the toughest division. I appreciate your, I like that you backed it up with stats and facts. It's good to have an argument. I just think when you look at the overall talent in the NFC West, we both agree, you mentioned it too, that is, I think the top three divisions are the division you said, I can't think of it right now, with the Broncos, the NFC South, because Tampa Bay, and you got New Orleans, and you got the other teams there. It's just a crazy division. And then you got the NFC West with the Seattle Seahawks, the 49ers, the Cardinals are coming up, and the Rams. I don't know what the hell the Rams are doing, but that's another story. I think right now Jerry Jeudy it's a great fit for Denver. It's a great fit for Denver. They have a young quarterback. He's looking to really make a name for himself in the NFL, and Jerry Jeudy is just the target. Drew Lock got his number one wide receiver. John Elway got his number one wide receiver. The Broncos are poised to do well next year. This guy's a stud. 10 touchdowns, 1,163 yards, like you mentioned. At 6'1", 193 pounds. He's got the speed. He's got the height. I'm excited to see what Jerry Jeudy can do in a uniform other than the 49ers, because I really wanted him. We're not going to get him, but I really wanted him. But the Broncos got a hell of a talent here in Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I just got to defend myself here. Top three divisions. I'm going to say it's the AFC West, but don't take me on that. I think that division, along with the NFC West and the NFC South, are the three best divisions by far in the NFL. But the AFC West does have the potential to be the best in the NFL because of the Raiders. Because of the Raiders looking better than the Rams right now, because the Rams are a dumpster fire, in my opinion.
They really threw themselves into mediocrity. I will agree. I'll agree with that. Yeah.
And as we'll see later, we actually won't see later, but I will say for some reason they took another wide receiver. They have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, but they went for another wide receiver in the second or third round instead of addressing many needs that they have. But, the Rams are the Rams, and I do not care about them.
Neither do I. In fact, I'm happy they are messing up. Go Niners.
16th overall, A.J. Terrell, cornerback, goes to the Atlanta Falcons. They lose Desmond Trufant. They gain A.J. Terrell, 6'1", 195 pounds. It's a great pick. 3 passes defended, 2 interceptions in 2019 for Clemson. It seems like all of the players are from Alabama or Clemson or the Ohio State. He's a tall corner, excellent speed, something the Falcons needed when they lost Desmond Trufant. National champion in 2018, first team ACC in 2019. It's what the Falcons need. They got Todd Gurley as well, and they still have Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan is still firing. He's still kicking around. He's looking really good, and so are the Falcons. It looks like maybe their time of sub 500 play is over. I'm not sure, but maybe. This can help it a lot. Brandon?
I agree. This guy is fantastic. In 2019 with Clemson, 3 passes defended, 2 interceptions. I think the stats don't really show a lot about the talent this guy has. He has phenomenal speed. It's something the Falcons really needed when they lost Desmond Trufant, like you said. They replaced Desmond Trufant in the draft, which is exactly what you want. So now you have the cap space to sign somebody if you'd like, offensively, defensively, etc. I think he's a great talent. I think Clemson breeds a lot of NFL caliber stars, and hopefully that's another one for the Atlanta Falcons because they can really use some help on that defense. Moving forward now, the Dallas Cowboys. Our producer, Giordano Ladisa, very happy about this election. Noah and I. This is probably actually the worst case scenario for the Eagles.
I thought the Eagles could have traded up, and they just stayed put. I did see what their plan was eventually, but part of me wishes that they could have traded up to get CD. But
should have.
The Dallas Cowboys have him now. He's theirs, and now I officially hate him too.
It's really something. CD Lamb, 17th overall to the Dallas Cowboys at 6'1", 195 pounds. Same height and weight as A.J. Terrell, so maybe they can be buddies in that aspect. CeeDee Lamb hopefully will be beating A.J. Terrell for touchdown passes. If you're a Cowboys fan, you'll be hoping that. He received 1,347 yards last year and 14 touchdowns. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 14 touchdowns in 10 games with Oklahoma. 10 regular season games. He has the best elusiveness after the catch of any of the big 3 wide receivers of the draft. He will need to develop some more quickness off the line to beat certain coverages. And I'll let you mention the stacked offensive players in Dallas when you give your take.
Oh.
What I will say is CeeDee Lamb was number 2 on my board for wide receivers. The Dallas Cowboys just got much scarier offensively. But what scares me for the Dallas Cowboys is they lost a lot of talent defensively. And what are they going to do now? That offense is legit. CeeDee Lamb is a top wide receiver. Him and Amari Cooper with Gallup are really going to complement each other well. Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, that offense is really good. But without a good defense, I don't see Dallas really doing anything. And I'm really concerned that defense wasn't spectacular. It was mediocre last year. And they lost their 4 best defensive players. So honestly, I was expecting, if it wasn't for CeeDee Lamb being available, I think the Dallas Cowboys would probably have taken a defensive player here, because that is what they really needed. However, CeeDee Lamb, you can't complain. Hell of a pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could have taken a defensive player. I was hoping, because you saw on the draft screen, it just said a bunch of all the needs that they have are cornerback and safety and linebacker, and then they ended up taking CeeDee Lamb, who was 3 picks away or 4 picks away from getting drafted by the Eagles. But it is what it is. They have he does join that stacked offense with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Zeke Elliott, Blake Jarwin, their tight end as well, Pollard, their secondary running back, and of course Dak Prescott, who is inferior to Carson Wentz. But it's a good move by Dallas. If they think that their defense is good enough with what they have now and then the picks that they got after this, then all the power to them. Then I'll hope that all the speedy wide receivers that the Eagles got burns through them. And we'll see what happens, but we need to move on to number 18. Very exciting. Offensive tackle again. Woo! Austin Jackson.
Can I say one thing about the Dolphins?
Sure.
I will say this. The Dolphins absolutely hit a grand slam in this draft. They did nothing I can't disagree with. They've done everything great. Their fans have agreed with everything, and they got potentially the best quarterback in the draft. I am very happy with what the Dolphins did in this draft to improve their team.
There was one pick that we will get to that the Dolphins did make a questionable one on, actually, in the first round, 30th overall. We'll get to him later. Austin Jackson, a very exciting pick, because with the 6th tight end or the 6th offensive tackle in the draft going now, he goes to the Miami Dolphins, 6'4", 322 pounds, solid arm strength. He's another really reliable tight end, and another one who's really nimble with the feet. He's nimble with his 322-pound body. He's going to help protect Tua and hope that he does not get another hip injury. The Dolphins, they allowed the most sacks in the NFL in 2019, and this pick obviously helps protect Tua. And Austin Jackson will replace Laremy Tunsil, who was traded last year to the Houston Texans. Brandon, what's your take on this one?
It's pretty simple. When Laremy Tunsil was traded to the Texans last year, I knew that the Dolphins were going to tank. And I think it's only apparent that with that pick that they traded away, that they received, for trading away Laremy Tunsil, they draft one of the best defensive tackles. And they did that here with Austin Jackson. You have a quarterback behind this guy, Austin Jackson, and Tua Tagovailoa, who is injury prone. And when I say injury prone, that is not an understatement. You need to protect this guy in his early years before these pass rushers really get to him. You need to let him adjust and get used to the National Football League. You don't want this guy receiving plenty of blows. He has the injury concerns. Build an offensive line to protect him. They're starting that here with Austin Jackson. Great pick. Moving forward now with the cornerback, Damon Arnett, 19th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders at 6 feet, 195 pounds. He's not the tallest corner, but he has the speed because of the low weight. He has 1 interception and 1 forced fumble in 2019 for the Ohio State. He's a physical corner who plays the ball very well. He tracks the ball. Does not have the game-breaking speed, but it's efficient. So like I said, the scouts are agreeing with what I'm saying. He has good speed, but not great. He doesn't have the height to be one of the top guys, but I think this is going to be a solid pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a first-round pick, 19th overall. I don't think you should be expecting 3-4 interceptions a year out of this guy, but you should expect solid coverage on the second or third wide receiver in every season. I think that's reasonable to get out of this guy, a solid second cornerback to cover the second or third option on the team. I think that's what this guy is going to be, and honestly, that is always worth it. It's always worth to cover the other 2 or 3 wide receivers on the team. So I think he's going to do that. I just don't think he's going to project to be a top cornerback on a team. I think he's going to be the second option. Noah, I don't know if you'd agree or disagree, but that's just my take.
That's a fair take. I don't see him as a world beater here, but a steady cornerback that'll get maybe an interception or two, maybe force a fumble here and there, but steady defense, like you said, on the second or third wide receiver. For the Las Vegas Raiders.
Weird.
I almost made it through the episode. He helps a bottom 10 defense in the NFL improve. Obviously, he was the second team All Big Ten in 2019, which is a very good accolade. But again, nothing more than just a steady defensive player for the Las Vegas Raiders, but a good pick and another reason why you can only go up from 8-8. So that's another reason I'm saying I think that they could still be in a really good division in the AFC West.
I'll just say that David Arnett, I'm not trying to, say this guy sucks. I'm just saying he's not going to be the guy you put on Odell. He's not going to be the guy you put on Michael Thomas. He's the guy that you put on Sammy Watkins or, Sammy Watkins has a lot of speed, so maybe not Sammy Watkins, actually. Terrible example. But, I don't know, like Emmanuel Sanders, the second option on a team, that's who you put him on. He can cover those guys, but he can't cover, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be able to cover the top guys. We'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. I hope nothing but the best for this guy. I just don't think he has it in him. Next pick, 20th overall, Clavon Chason. I don't even know. So many ways to say the name. Auto center is Alex Chason. Now we have Clavon Chason. A lot of Chason said in this room. 20th overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 6'3", 254 pounds, a defensive end or a linebacker, a little bit of a dual threat, just like I saw Isaiah Simmons. He had 6.5 sacks and 1 forced fumble in 2019 for the national champion LSU Tigers. He's extremely explosive and agile with immense amounts of speed to help rebuild the Jacksonville defense. I think with the Jaguars going through a rebuild, they need picks for the future. This is what it is. I don't know if he's going to have an immediate impact, but I think he's going to develop into a solid linebacker or defensive end. I can't really – that's the problem. I don't know what positions he's going to be. Is he going to be the linebacker or is he going to be the defensive end? I think regardless of where he's going to be, he's going to develop into a solid NFL starter. I just don't know where this route's going to go. With players like this who have two positions, sometimes it doesn't work out. And, he has the speed and the explosiveness to make it work out. So hopefully he does. But there is a little bit of concern. He needs to find that position that he's most comfortable with, and he needs to do it quickly.
Agreed. Yeah, Clavon Chason can be a home run pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Although there are a couple of them. Like you said, the two positions that he plays. Is he a jack of all trades, master of none? Or is he actually a master of two really ideal positions? Or can he get past all these injury problems that he's had in 2018 and 2019 that have really affected his game then and might affect his game now? And like I said, it might be the injuries that take down Clavon Chason, but I think it's a good risk. It's a good boomer bust pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, they needed to rebuild that Jacksonville defense, and it just needs to get better, and they got a good linebacker / defensive end in Clavon Chason. But now it's Eagles time. We get to talk about wide receiver Jalen Reagor, 21st overall, Philadelphia Eagles, 5'10", 206 pounds. So not the tallest, but he's got the speed. That's what we need. 611 reception yards, 14 touchdowns in 2019 for the Texas Christian. He's a deep threat, high speed, very shifty, which can turn short plays into very, very long plays. A little bit short, but he's got a solid weight. He's a big guy for someone who's 5'10", and he's got a real solid vertical. I've seen a lot of these highlights. I'm really excited for this guy to join the team. Eagles have a very bad receiving core in 2019. Obviously, when Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey got injured, it was just all pandemonium from there. You got guys that I've never heard of before, Deontay Burnett, Davis, and Greg Ward, the all-star, all joining the Eagles. And boy, it was a dumpster fire, let's just say. Somehow they still got to the playoffs. Not somehow. It was Carson Wentz. But it's a very, very good start to what the Eagles did in the draft by getting a lot of these wide receivers. So they threw a lot of sticky things at the wall and see which things stick. Hopefully this one's Jalen Reagor. They drafted like 6 wide receivers, which I'm very happy about.
Yes.
Good thing for Philadelphia. He's a 2-time second team All Big 12. I'm very excited. This guy's going to be a prime offensive talent for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the guy that do you have a take on this one?
Yeah, I think we mentioned in the NFL offseason video or podcast, I think it was episode number 3, make sure to check it out, that the Eagles would have to deal with their wide receiver issues through the draft. And I think we both agreed that was unlikely. And I think we can both agree that that take would be wrong now. I think the Eagles have done a fantastic job. Questionable moves, but they got the guys that they want. It's their offense. They're going to build it towards these new wide receivers. And I'm happy for you, as a friend of yours, not as a fan, that the Eagles are adding and improving their wide receiver pool. Because Jalen Reagor, it was either him, Brandon Ayuk, or Justin Jefferson for me with the next pick for the Niners. And, when they took him, I was a little upset, but I was happy with who we took at 25. But yes, the Eagles, they got a really good wide receiver with great skill and speed.
So the guy that a lot of people thought that they should have taken, I did not have that opinion. Like, I kind of did, but at the same time, Justin Jefferson, you look back at it, they have a guy now, Alshon Jeffrey, who honestly I think is going to play for the Eagles this year. It just doesn't seem like he's going to get released or traded or whatever. But also, he's a slot receiver. We have a few guys who can fit that. We also have 2 capable tight ends, so we did not need this guy. Justin Jefferson goes to the Minnesota Vikings, 22nd overall. Did they trade up? I believe they traded up to draft him.
I think so.
6'1", 202 pounds, 1,540 yards, and 18 touchdowns. He obviously had a monster year for LSU, given that was with Joe Burrow and his historic performance, but a great numbers nonetheless.
Yes.
Phenomenal slot wide receiver from Minnesota, although that size was not tested much in LSU's offense. He is a great receiver. He replaces Stephon Diggs, who they traded to Buffalo. Yeah, it was for this pick. They traded Stephon Diggs to Buffalo for this pick, and then they actually traded up eventually. National champion in 2019, second team All-SEC in 2019. It's a good pick. Brandon, what do you think?
I personally think Justin Jefferson was the better pick over Jalen Reagor. I think he's the more well-known name. I think he's the more polished product. I think the experience of playing with a guy like Joe Burrow really just brings out the best of you. And we saw the best of Justin Jefferson. 18 touchdowns is nothing but hard to do against some of the top programs in NCAA college football. I think Justin Jefferson would have been the better pick, but I think for the Minnesota Vikings, they replaced Stephon Diggs like that. And I think this is a win-win for them. They're getting a wide receiver with a lot of skill and talent. The Eagles are getting a wide receiver with a lot of skill and talent. And I think it just comes down to personal preference because these guys are all skilled. It's a great pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Skull. Moving forward now, 23rd overall linebacker Kenneth Murray. It makes me sound like I have a really bad list. Kenneth Murray, as somebody with a lisp. Not the most enjoyable name to say. Los Angeles Chargers take him at 23rd, 6'2", 241 pounds. In 2019 for Oklahoma, he had 4 sacks and 17 tackles for a loss. He's a very good playmaker who can go in many positions on the field, but can take bad angles at times. So he needs to work on that. He needs to work on his angle and how he approaches the play. He will help elevate a decent or above average Chargers defense. Hopefully that defense can stay healthy. He's a first team all big pro in 2019. I think overall you have a project here. I think in the Chargers defense you have a project, and I think you're adding another piece to the project there in Kenneth Murray. I think you know what, he did good things with Oklahoma as a linebacker. Getting 4 sacks isn't exactly easy. So I think for the Chargers, it's another nice pick in this draft.
It's a good pick. And again, you just hope that he does not stay injured, or he does not get injured, or stays healthy. You hope he stays healthy because a lot of that Chargers defense did not stay healthy, and it really hurt them late in the year. But I think it's a decent pick. Obviously, the first team All Big 12 is a good accolade to build on. And I just hope that he can polish out his tackling, polish out his angles, and he can be a really good linebacker in this league. 24th, you got to go with the most interesting position in the league, a center, Cesar Ruiz, to the New Orleans Saints, 6'2", 307 pounds. He's a solid build for a center. He's a smart guy, plays smart, and he plays effectively, but he lacks a little bit of speed, which is questionable. It's also a questionable pick because they already took a center in the second round last year, but in the past, Saints have been known for taking a lot of offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And so maybe this pick for them makes sense. All Big Ten second team in 2019. It's pretty boring. It's a center. There's not much to say about that. They already took a center last year, but maybe they're already not too happy with him, and they really wanted to get a good center. Other than that, I don't have much to say. It's a center. What do you think about that, Brandon?
What I think is it's pretty simple. I think the Saints are trying to protect the hell out of Drew Brees, and I think what this move does is it allows the Saints options on the offensive line. The center last year they can move him. They can move Ruiz. They have options now, and I think when you put $50 million in 2 years for a quarterback, you want to protect your asset, and that's what this move is, to protect your Hall of Fame asset. Let's move forward now with my reaction to the next pick. Ladies and gentlemen, I was a little bit happy.
Give me Brandon! Oh my god. It was either those three or Brandon. Oh my god, yes. Give me Brandon Ayuk. Well, obviously Justin Jefferson. That was my top 5. Faithful then, faithful now. Who are the Niners taking? 25th. Niners. Brandon Ayuk, Arizona State. Come on. Wide receiver.
San Francisco 49ers select
Yeah, baby! Brandon Ayuk, that was my number 5 guy. We lost out on Judy, Lamb, and Ruggs, but I'll take this absolute beautiful wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk. Guy's got great hands, great skill, great speed. That offense with Shanahan is going to look nice. Kinlaw is going to create beautiful sacks. Trust the process. Faithful then, faithful now. Let's go Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
So that was quite the reaction. If you couldn't tell before that I wanted a receiver, I think you could tell now that I was happy to get a wide receiver. Brandon Ayuk in 2019, 65 catches, 1,192 yards, 18.3 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns. Ayuk at 6 foot, 205 pounds, ran a 4.5 40-yard dash with a 40-inch vertical leap at the NFL Combine. He's a great return man, a good route runner, and excels after the catch. Pardon me. He does not excel at the couch, hopefully. Hopefully he excels at the catch. For the 49ers, he's a very dangerous receiver. This guy is one of the best players in the Pac-12 after the catch, to gain yards. I think he's a perfect player to fit in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. He replaces Emmanuel Sanders, and he, as well as another weapon for Jimmy Garoppolo. But overall, he underwent core muscle surgery in 2019, so there's a little bit of injury concern. But if you look at the product here of Brandon Ayuk sharing a phenomenal first name, Brandon, the best name out there, you're getting a talented player who many say could become the wide receiver in the draft if things go right, or if he goes to the right situation. And I honestly think he went to the right situation. Kyle Shanahan is going to make this guy a top wide receiver in the league, just like he did with Deebo Samuel. He's the top wide receiver in the 49ers now. He's going to make Brandon Ayuk another top wide receiver for the 49ers. We're going to see a lot of slants. We're going to see a lot of weird routes. But Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius. Brandon Ayuk at 6 foot reminds me of Deebo Samuel, has the skill and speed, a little bit less height. So he's less of a deep threat, more of a slant route runner. Overall, I think he's going to fit really well in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Noah, what do you think?
I think it's a good selection. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. They gained Brandon Ayuk. It's the same theme that we've seen through the draft for the San Francisco 49ers, that they just need to patch up some holes, and they're still a really good football team. And it's that simple, really. He's going to be a good receiver. He's probably either going to be the number 1 or 2, whether it's him or Deebo Samuel. And it's a good pick. It's a good, solid, safe pick for Kyle Shanahan. Yeah. And he can play around with what he wants to do with Brandon Ayuk in his scheme.
It is important to mention that the 49ers did trade up, so they didn't have any picks in the mid-rounds. They traded with Minnesota, so they gained the picks because it looked like Brandon Ayuk was probably going to get taken. So great move by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan to ensure that they get that wide receiver. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, next pick, Jordan Love. My goodness.
Wow.
This pick was a stunner. You want to talk about quarterback pick stunners? This draft's got a couple for you. Jordan Love going to the Green Bay Packers. And oh my goodness, I wonder what Aaron Rodgers is thinking right now.
The Cheeseheads weren't happy.
Yeah, not at all. 6'4", 224. He's got the ideal build for a quarterback, but like you look at this guy's stats, he's like a tale of two quarterbacks. In 2019, he had 20 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. That's not good. But then in 2018, for Utah State, he had 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So that's looking a little better. He's a big, talented arm. He's an athletic QB, obviously has some consistency issues.
Yeah.
And he also bails out of the pocket often. I just think he's not a matured quarterback, but I think that's the plan because obviously Aaron Rodgers is here to stay for a year or two more at least. And I think that's the perfect time to take a not necessarily well-matured quarterback yet. And he's learning from the best. He gets to watch Aaron Rodgers. Like they said it on the draft a couple of times on the show, that he does not have to speak to Aaron Rodgers. He could just watch Aaron Rodgers ball out with, honestly, not a lot of wide receivers and like weapons in general, and they could see that how Aaron Rodgers does it. And I think that's a valuable experience for Jordan Love. He was the New Mexico Bowl MVP in 2018. So again, that's something from his 2018 year that was a lot better than what he did last year. I'm just skeptical. Like, this is not the best quarterback to take. I would have rather taken Jalen Hurts over this guy if you're going to take a quarterback, but Green Bay needed a wide receiver, and I'm so surprised that they did not get a wide receiver because Devontae Adams cannot do it himself. Brandon, you're shaking your head.
As a 49ers fan, I shouldn't be as upset as I am, but as a fan of Aaron Rodgers, I am. In his entire career in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers have not once selected an offensive weapon in the first round. Once. They have not done that once since Aaron Rodgers was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. I look at Jordan Love and I see Jameis Winston. The guy has the skill, but he's also inconsistent. He likes to roll out of the pocket, and he relies on the offensive talents to make the play. I don't like the pick at all. I have nothing but I don't hate Jordan Love. I think he's a second or third rounder in my opinion. This guy is not a first rounder. This guy is not the player that the Green Bay Packers needed. They needed a wide receiver to go catch that ball from Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? Fine. You weren't going to draft a wide receiver. You don't want to draft a talented player. Fine. Draft a defensive player. Not a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, with the way the league is trending now and the way we're protecting our quarterbacks, like Pat McAfee said in his show, and he's a former punter for the Indianapolis Colts. He knows the NFL. He said with the way we're protecting quarterbacks right now and the way the Green Bay Packers have a great offensive line, Aaron Rodgers can play for the next 10 years if he wanted to. And I agree. He has not slowed down. He still has the arm, and he's not showing any signs of regression, unlike Tom Brady. I love him. He's the GOAT. Well, I don't love him, but he is the GOAT. However, he is showing signs of regression. Aaron Rodgers isn't. He's still the same Aaron Rodgers carrying that team of misfits on the wide receiver, no offense. You know, they don't have any of the top draft picks. They only have one wide receiver that I would consider a top 10 Adams, what's his name again?
Devontae Adams?
Yeah, he's a top 10 wide receiver, so nothing but respect for him. But honestly, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, what the hell, man? If I'm a Packers fan, I'm like, what the hell, man? As an NFL fan, I'm like, what the hell, man? Aaron Rodgers has 3 to 5 years left of a window to win another Super Bowl. I want to see him do well. I want to see Green Bay do well. Not over the 49ers, but I love to see Aaron Rodgers, go on another run in his storied NFL career. I know I'm really going in on this, but the pick makes no sense. It pisses me off. And you know what? Aaron Rodgers needs a talent to go with Adams and to go with Jones. I just don't get it. Stupid pick, despicable, terrible. We'll move on now. This just pisses me off. I don't get when teams make stupid decisions like this. And it's just, honestly, it's frankly disrespectful to Aaron Rodgers. He has a lot left in the tank. You don't draft a quarterback until you don't think there's anything left in the tank, and there's plenty left in the tank for him. Let's move forward now before I continue to get heated and my face gets as red as my jersey in toque. Linebacker Jordan Brooks went 27th overall to the Seattle Seahawks. This pick, there was better players on the board in my opinion. The Seahawks, 6 foot, 240-pound linebacker, got 3 sacks and 1 forced fumble and 20 tackles for a loss with Texas Tech in 2019. A very reliable tackler with good speed, not great but good. He's not the best in coverage. He elevates the 11th worst defense in the National Football League in Seattle. As he'll tandem with Bobby Wagner, one of the best players on the Seattle defense. He's a second-team All-American in 2019 and first All-Big 12 team in 2019. I think there's better players available, but I also think that this is a good pick for the Seahawks. I think it fits the need that they had, the hole that they had, and I think they patched it up decently here.
Yeah, I agree that there are better players on the board, but it's also a good pick. Like, they needed a linebacker, they got a linebacker, and it works for them. It's an okay pick. That's all that's really left to say. It's not a phenomenal world beater pick, but it's not a terrible pick, and that's all we really got to say about that. But there's another linebacker that went right to the Baltimore Ravens, who I think he was a little bit of a better pick, but Patrick Queen going to the Baltimore Ravens, 28th overall, 6 foot, 229 pounds, 3 sacks, 1 interception, 12 tackles for loss in 2019 for that LSU team, who just seems to be producing tons of talent. He's very fast, very athletic. He's an ideal blitzer. He does lack a bit of size, but he still can. I think it's still just a really good pick. Baltimore adds another weapon. They have a really stout defense, and that just adds another thing on top of it. He has championship experience, as he won with LSU. I think it checks all the boxes for Baltimore. And there wasn't a lot of positional needs that they had, but just getting another linebacker for a good depth player, I think that's a smart move from Baltimore.
I think when you mentioned the experience and the national championship experience and the experience in general of winning a championship is exactly why I think this is, a very special and a very important pick for the Baltimore Ravens. They are coming off a season where they were phenomenal, and they fell flat on their asses in the first round against the Tennessee Titans. I'm not going to lie. They just didn't come out to play. Their defense did not stop the ball in the first half, and it really cost them bit them in the ass at the end of the day. I think bringing in that experience of a championship-level linebacker coming off a season that was historic with LSU, I think he's going to bring great young leadership, great young skill, and great young experience to a defense that probably needs it. I like this pick for the Ravens. I'm happy for Patrick Queen. I like LSU. I'm a Syracuse Orange fan, but I liked LSU. It was a great story last year. And you know what? Patrick Queen, I think he's going to be a good fit with the Ravens. Moving forward now, and another offensive tackle. And speaking of the Tennessee Titans, they took Isaiah Wilson, 29th overall. He's 6'6", and he's 250 pounds. Certainly isn't a small person. Ideal size and build for an offensive lineman. Needs to improve technique and fundamentals, though. His big body should help replace Jack Conklin, who went to the Browns, and keep the holes open for Derrick Henry, which is everything that's important. That offense relies on Derrick Henry's ability to go through the open hole, the open 4, 5, 6, whatever hole, and score the touchdowns. Isaiah Wilson should help that. Isaiah Wilson should help Derrick Henry score some touchdowns. Isaiah Wilson should help protect Ryan Tannehill. And hopefully, that everything worked out for Tennessee last year. Hopefully this pick helps and works out for Tennessee this year.
It scares me a little bit what Tennessee did, because I like the idea of an offensive tackle. I'm just not sure if it's the right offensive tackle. If you have a guy that still needs to work on his fundamentals and technique rather than building up strength and size or something, then I think that's an issue. It's not really easy to quickly learn these things, especially for a team like Tennessee. They're winning now, and having a guy like Isaiah Wilson who doesn't know the fundamentals and technique, for me, it's a little bit scary. But they did need to replace the hole left by Jack Conklin, and they did get an offensive tackle. If they think this is the right guy, they interviewed him. They gave him the proper invite and advice, and maybe this could be a good pick. To me, it's just not the right pick.
I just want to mention one thing. You said that they are competing, and I agree. That's what I was trying to say. I think the last 3 years they won, or the last 4 years they went 9-7. I think this is the year they're going to look to take the next step with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and the new head coach there from last year. I agree. I think this is questionable, but I honestly think it'll work out. I have confidence in this kid. Let's move forward to Noah.
Noah, you bear with me here. I'm gonna try to.
No disrespect. No disrespect, by the way.
No disrespect, but I'm gonna try to pronounce the name correctly. But it's gonna be rough. I'm reading this. Noah Igmanohin,
I think that was good.
cornerback, goes to the Miami Dolphins, and we said that there was a very not good pick by the Miami Dolphins, and I think this is it. Not because of the long name. I think that I just don't.
Not because of the long name.
I don't see the first round talent for this guy. He didn't get an interception. He only defended 7 passes for Auburn, and all he really has, he's got like raw skill, but he's a former wide receiver. He converted from wide receiver. He needs to develop and learn fundamentals. This is not a guy that's going to start next year. This is probably not a guy who's going to succeed all that well in the year after. And I just don't know if he's a guy that'll ever succeed as a cornerback. Like, he's such a late convert, and he didn't really like thrive in that position. And for me, it's a brain fart of a pick for me. I think this and the Jordan Love pick for Green Bay are the 2 worst picks of this round by far. And this really hurts because Miami had a really solid draft until this for me.
What I'll say is I agree with Jordan Love. Nothing but respect to him. I hope he has a good NFL career. I just think for the Green Bay Packers, that move makes absolutely no sense and is nothing but disrespectful to Aaron Rodgers. But with this cornerback pick for Noah, I'm not going to try to attempt to say his last name. What I'll say is I don't know a lot about the kid. I won't lie. But when I see a guy convert from a wide receiver position to a cornerback position, that does happen often in college football, but it hasn't really translated into the results. I'm excited to see what this kid can do. If there's a preseason, we'll see because of COVID-19 if there's a preseason or not. I'm excited, though. I think this kid is a wild card. I don't really know a lot about him. I want to see him. I want to see he's 5'10" and a cornerback. So if he's not tall, he has to have speed, and he needs to have toughness, which he has. So if he has both those tools, he has the tools to become a good cornerback. It's really up to the Dolphins and him to develop him into becoming that. I agree he's not going to be ready next year, but he's more of a project, and I think they view him as a project that will really benefit them down the road. Moving forward now with a cornerback, again, Jeff Gladney, 31st overall to Skull, the Minnesota Vikings. Sorry, headphone users. Skull. Sorry, headphone users, if I broke your eardrum there. The Minnesota Vikings taking Jeff Gladney, 31st overall, the 5'10", 191-pound cornerback, got 1 interception and 14 defended passes last year in 2019 with Texas Christian. He's a quick and fierce defensive back, but size can make him suspect to slot receivers. His size and inability to match up to like a guy like CeeDee Lamb may make this a tough pick for him and for the Vikings to cover like a team like the 49ers. He's, like mentioned here, slant receivers. The Niners now have Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. I don't know if Jeff Gladney would have so much fun covering both. They're both big and fast, and I don't know if Gladney can cover. I think if it's a more on one-on-one down the field, I think he'd be okay. He replaces Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, and Mackenzie Alexander, and he's projected to be a day 1 starter. I think there'll be some growing pains, but I think this guy has a chance to be a solid NFL defensive starter for a good amount of time.
I agree. This guy should have been the guy the Dolphins got, but instead they went with Noah. But again, no disrespect to Noah. I just don't think I don't think it's going to work out. And for a first-round pick, that was not it. But Jeff Gladney, it already looks like all you have to see is he has an interception. He's defended twice the amount of passes. That's it. That's all you really need to know. But on top of that, he's quick. He's fierce. Size can make him susceptible to those slot receivers, but the slot receiver from this draft was, guess who? Justin Jefferson, who they ended up drafting as well. So they're not even going to have to face. He's not even going to have to face Justin Jefferson yet. But he also replaced. The big problem was he replaced Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander. They needed a cornerback. They needed a cornerback badly, and so he'll be that day 1 starter. I'm sure he'll be the day 1 starter, and I'm sure they're going to be working with him especially during camp because he is going to be a big focus because Minnesota is gearing up for a big playoff run again.
I just think when you mentioned that this should have been the pick for the Miami Dolphins, I won't really say yes or no because I don't know enough about the two. I can't make a decision and be wrong if I don't know. I don't want to look like a joke. But what I will say, I'm not saying your opinion is wrong. I'm just saying I just don't – you know more than me about the two picks, so you have a more valid opinion. But what I will say is when I look at the talent that these two quarterbacks defended against, the league that Jeff Gladney played in, much worse than the division or conference, whatever, that Noah played in. He was on Auburn, and he played some of the toughest competition in NCAA football, so I think that should come into account there.
It does, but it's just I would rather take a guy who was fully a cornerback and has shown good results as a full cornerback than a guy who converted from wide receiver. To me, it's a bonehead decision. When the Eagles' big problem at the beginning of the season was their cornerbacks and their wide receivers were still all healthy. That was what I was looking at. I was looking at cornerbacks for the Eagles to take in the first round, and Jeff Gladney was one of those guys that I came across. I'm like, okay, this guy looks pretty good. He might be able to take the helm at the quarterback slot, but instead he goes to Minnesota. It's fine. We have Darius Slay. We're all set. Number 32 to end the first round, you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Brandon's favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs, who, by the way, won Super Bowl 54 and 53, 54. I can't even remember it. 54.
Sure it's 54.
54. What Super Bowl was it that you lost him again, Brandon? Just to remind.
I don't want to think. This is move on from this segment. No, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Kansas City Chiefs. This is a pretty good story.
Wait, can we just before we get to the story, I just have to say one thing. Mm-hmm. The Niners were 6 minutes away from the Super Bowl. All they had to do was run the ball. Should have been ours. Okay, just a little bit so.
It wasn't. What could have been was not. The Kansas City Chiefs. This is a pretty good story for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 5'7", 207 pounds. So he's really short, but he still has that size. So he's kind of like he's a thickly built running back, but he's 5'7". It's a phenomenal story. 1,414 yards, rushing yards, 16 touchdowns rushing, 453 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown for LSU, again, with Joe Burrow. But those are phenomenal numbers for a running back who's 5'7", shifty runner, phenomenal balance, again, for a guy that is 5'7". I cannot stress that enough. It is so good to see a guy with at his height that is succeeding so much in the college football game. It's great to see. Although the problem with him is that his speed is lacking a little bit. He is 207 pounds, so it's harder to get speed at 5'7", but I do believe that his shiftiness can help him succeed in Kansas City and make their offense a lot scarier. And that just adds another weapon for Patrick Mahomes. He's shown that he can be a receiving threat as well, and Patrick Mahomes is only smiling at that.
I think with running backs, the running back position tends to be one of the most short positions in football. I think that comes for a reason. When you have a guy running through a hole, in the offensive line, running through the hole or running around the offensive line, whatever, you want a guy that's short. You want a guy that's speedy. You want a guy that can move, right? You don't want a guy that is big and is easy to tackle. You want a small little guy that can speed right through like a lightning bolt. That's what a running back does, and I think this is what Clyde's going to do. I saw Andy Reid, and I saw the head coach, Ed, what's his name again for the Tigers, LSU? Go Tigers, that guy.
I don't know his name, but
forget his name. Legendary guy. Honestly, this is a good pick for the Chiefs. You got Patrick Mahomes. You got nothing to worry about. This guy's going to do well because you have one of the best definitely a Hall of Fame quarterback there. It's notable, though, that this was the only running back selected in the first round. First time we've seen that in quite a bit of time. And there was a lot of people thinking that there would not even be a running back selected in the first round. So Kansas took that and said, nope, we want a running back. And they took the first one and only one off the board in round number 1. Let's move on to round number 2, though. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to break down a few notable second-round picks because this draft was so deep in wide receiver and offensive tackle that running backs and a couple wide receivers were really pushed out. And a safety that should have been mentioned in the first round was really pushed back in this draft. But let's get to the first pick in the second round, 33rd overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. It was T. Higgins, wide receiver out of Clemson. At 6'3", 218 pounds, he is phenomenal. In 15 games played last year, he received 59 catches, 1,167 yards. He averaged 19.8 yards and 19.8 yards per carry, and he averaged 77.8 yards per game. He had 13 touchdowns. He's a very athletic wide receiver. He has great speed off the snap, has the ability to make unreal catches, and he's hard for cornerbacks to take down while catching those balls. Higgins' projection as a pro is pretty simple. He's dangerous when facing soft coverage and or a second-tier cornerback, but ordinary if asked to be the first option in the passing game. So basically, he's projected to be the second option at wide receiver for an NFL team. Interesting fact about T. Higgins. He was offered to play Division I basketball. He said, no, I want to play football. Ended up being the right choice. An all-team ACC in 2019 with Clemson. This guy is everything that the Bengals need and want. They got the quarterback, and now they got a weapon for the quarterback. Great pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Noah, what do you think?
I'm actually going to tend to disagree here on T. Higgins. As a Philadelphia Eagles fan looking for wide receivers, we had been scrolling through all these wide receivers, and T. Higgins was one that came up a lot because he is 6'3", 218, which is which among these wide receivers, him and the next pick after him were very unique in their way that they were they were really tall. And for me, it just was not what the Eagles needed, obviously, because of the whole. He doesn't have quite as much speed as you would want. But I just think that there were guys that were better at that spot at 33 for Cincinnati. I'd say I saw T. Higgins more as a 50th overall kind of guy. For me, it's a reach, but Cincinnati.
Wow.
Cincinnati. They took their guy, and for me, it's Clemson. He's with Clemson. He's with Trevor Lawrence. It's hard to judge all these guys. Yes, he's going to be playing with Joe Burrow, but that's not the same guy as Trevor Lawrence. And so for me, I think T. Higgins was not the right pick, but he was a wide receiver. They needed wide receivers, another weapon for Joe Burrow, and in that sense, it's a good pick for Cincinnati. Overall, though, even the next guy after him, who I'll get to after this, was the pick. Michael Pittman Jr., 34th overall to the Indianapolis Colts. He'll go to Andrew. Oh, too soon. And not to Andrew Luck, but to not even to Jacoby Brissett. To Phillip Rivers, I guess. I don't know what's going on down there, honestly. He was a pretty good wide receiver for USC. He had 101 receptions, 1,275 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Huge body, 6'4", obviously 220 pounds. He's the prototypical big wide receiver, hard to bring down when he's going full steam. Obviously, first team All Pac-12 in 2019, and a consensus second team All-America selection in 2019 as well. Won the 2019 Pop Warner College Football Award, the senior who had made an impact on the field, in the classroom, and in the community, which is a great award. That's probably one of my favorite awards for college players. And he was also a finalist for the Fred
Biletnikoff Award, which is given to the nation's top wide receiver.
So that's obviously a great accolade for Michael Pittman. I expected him to go a little bit higher, but he fell to the Indianapolis Colts. And for Phillip Rivers, I mean, it's looking good for him. T.Y. Hilton, and now they got Michael Pittman as well. That's better than what they had for the Chargers. So this is a great pick for me.
I think if the Bengals would have taken Michael Pittman Jr., I think they would have been better off. That might be a hot take to some, but that's just me. I think T. Higgins is a guy.
I agree.
I know you agree, but I know there's going to be many people that disagree. What I'll say is it's simple. It comes down to basic things to me. The height similar, the weight similar, but it really comes down to the skill and athleticism. T. Higgins, very athletic, very skilled. But it comes down to Michael Pittman's ability to be equally as athletic, equally as skilled, and making the big plays. I don't know what it is about this guy, but something that speaks to me, when you are putting up similar numbers to T. Higgins, who had arguably the best quarterback in college football throwing to him, that makes me think you are going to be much better. Michael Pittman Jr., USC, Pac-12, ACC, these are not the top conferences, okay? So T. Higgins wasn't going up against the best cornerback every game. He went up against Syracuse. We really didn't have great cornerbacks. T. Higgins didn't go up against competition like Jerry Jeudy did with Alabama. Same with Michael Pittman Jr. The difference is T. Higgins had Trevor Lawrence throwing to him. Michael Pittman Jr. did not. So when I think about this, Pittman Jr. put up similar numbers, taller, weighs more, in my opinion, more skilled. I think this was a home run pick for the Colts. I'm really high on Michael Pittman Jr. And I think the ability he had when he was catching balls with a lesser player than Trevor Lawrence. Not trying to put any flack on that quarterback in USC. However, I think Michael Pittman Jr. will be a really great player, and I think the Colts got a hell of a wide receiver. Moving forward now to a hell of a running back, a guy that probably would have been first round if it wasn't for the abundance of wide receivers. Running back DeAndre Swift out of Georgia, 35th overall to the Detroit Lions, and 5'9", baby, 215 pounds. In 2019, in 14 games, he rushed for 1,218 yards, which averaged 6.2 per carry and 7 touchdowns with the Georgia Bulldogs. He has great power and speed. He's a prototypical National Football League running back. He fills a huge need for the Lions, who needed another running back to go along with Kerryon Johnson. So they fill a need in there. As well, he's a first-team All-SEC in 2019. I think DeAndre Swift, overall, I like DeAndre Swift. He's talented, NFL caliber, definitely a top running back in this draft. I just think the Lions had needs that were more important. They have Kerryon Johnson, and he's doing just fine. I like DeAndre Swift. I think he's a hell of a player, and I think he's going to do really great things with Detroit and in the National Football League. I just think there are some defensive players available that the Detroit Lions really could have needed. You could look at Xavier McKinney. You could look at Matos, for example. You got these guys that were available that fell off somehow on people's draft boards, and I think that would have been the better pick to rebuild that defense. But I understand the Lions haven't had a really good running game in years, and I understand the need for that too. So I understand it. It's just not what I would have done.
DeAndre Swift, sorry. DeAndre Swift, I think, had the first-round talent, and I think it was one of those situations where you did have other needs, but you couldn't let that talent go by. And picking DeAndre Swift for the Detroit Lions, for me, is a smart move. Kerryon Johnson had a couple of rough goes in 2019, some consistency issues. He's playing on the Lions, and all those factors turned into a disappointing season for him and the Lions. So picking another running back, a 1A and 1B situation, that might be the key for Detroit's offense, as well having a really good quarterback in Matt Stafford. And going on to the New York Football Giants, they unfortunately made a really good selection here. Xavier McKinney.
Best pick in the second round, in my opinion, by far.
Best pick in the second round.
Well, for defensive players, yes. Best defensive player on the board, they took him.
Xavier McKinney goes to the New York Football Giants. Again, another guy who was kind of projected to go in the first round, but sort of fell to the second. In 2019, he had 95 total tackles. 59 of those are solo tackles. He had 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, so obviously a dual threat there. 1 touchdown, of course. He was a first-round talent. He fell down the board. He was one of those guys, DeAndre Swift. You had like another guy being Xavier McKinney, like falling down the board, and you're just thinking, all of these guys, like now you're sort of thinking for the Miami Dolphins, what if they didn't take that no-name cornerback, and instead they took one of these 2 guys for Tua to throw to or for the defense to get better? But here we are. He thrives as a deep safety. He diagnoses pass routes really swiftly and gets a great break on the ball in the air. Phenomenal coverage safety. I like this pick. Brandon, what do you think?
Well, I think his speed and athleticism is incredible, and I think that's what makes this pick phenomenal for the New York Football Giants. Unfortunately, they made a great move here, and I am very high in Xavier McKinney. I projected him to be a top 20 pick in the draft. He falls to 36. Great value on a great player. He has a lethal situational blitzer. So this guy, like I mentioned with the blitz, he had 3 sacks as a safety last year with Alabama. 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown. But primarily when a safety's getting 3 sacks, you got to be scared. He has great speed. But overall, he has a tendency to miss tackles. So he's really got to improve on angling properly, standing in front of the player you're about to tackle, and tackling him. Don't, follow the feet, follow the play. As a rugby player, that's what we're told. So it's a little different in football. However, that's a weakness for him. So he needs to improve on his tackling abilities. But I think I'm very high on Xavier McKinney. I'm not going to lie. I think this is going to really help the Giants, and hopefully this doesn't turn into the next Julius Peppers. Hopefully they keep him and they make him one of the top safeties in the league. Moving forward now to a defensive end who a lot of people were high on, Yetur Gross-Matos, 30th overall to the Carolina Panthers. I don't know. Noah, did I say that wrong? You're laughing.
No, you said it great. The name is just funny, and that's the proper pronunciation too. It's the name.
Really?
The name gets me every time. Gross-Matos, but sorry, go ahead.
Gross-Matos, yeah. No disrespect, of course. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, very proud of myself for saying the name, by the way, properly. 30th overall to the Carolina Panthers at 6'5", 266 pounds. Like mentioned before, the Carolina Panthers are trying to rebuild that defense, and we saw it with their earlier pick, taking another defensive tackle in Derek Brown, 7th overall, and now they take another one here, defensive end, Matos, 38th overall. That defense should improve next year. They're injecting a lot of youth and speed and athleticism into it. This prototypical combination of size, athleticism, and agility makes him has the tools to be one of the top defensive ends of the draft. I think this is a steal. I honestly could have seen this guy going late in the first round. It wouldn't have shocked me, and I think where he was picked was expected, but once again, would not have been shocked if he was taken in the first round. In 2019, for Penn State, he had 40 total tackles, 9 sacks. Guy's a beast. Noah, what do you think?
It was a great pick. He's just one of those other guys that fell down the draft board, and he could have fully been a first-round pick. He was a 2-time first-team All-Big Ten in 2018 and 2019 for Penn State. It was just a great pick for Carolina, and they're rebuilding that defense, and for those 2 picks, those are 2 really good picks for Carolina.
Yes.
Now, oh boy, questionable pick. Questionable pick to say the least. Here's Jalen Hurts, 53rd overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's 6'1", 222 pounds, 3,851 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a 191.2 rating in 2019 for Oklahoma. Known as a phenomenal leader when he played for Alabama and then when he went to Oklahoma. He's extremely tough, extremely durable. He shows the ability to make plays late in games. He's inconsistent patience as a starter. Sometimes he'll be waiting perfectly and then the receiver will know, and sometimes it's sort of iffy, and that's one of his weaknesses. In 2018, National Quarterback Club College Quarterback of the Year. Oh my goodness, that's a name of the year. Shared with Tua, of course. Big 12 Offensive Newcomer of the Year. Big 12 champion, first team all Big 12 in 2019. So many accolades for Jalen Hurts. There are a couple ways Philadelphia can take this year. Let me break it down here. There are like 3 ways we can go.
Please do for us, because I think I'm in the majority. What the hell are you guys doing?
I don't think that this pick was the best pick they could have made. I don't think it was the second best pick they could have made. And I do not think it was the third best pick they could have made.
It wasn't.
That being said, it is a pick that has the potential in the future, when you look 5 years ahead, to look like a good pick. And let me tell you why. Firstly, there was a report about a month ago that was put out by one of the smartest football minds. I know I can't remember his name, but it was a really good article, and I saw his whole draft preview. And he said that the Eagles should draft Jalen Hurts in the second round with this pick. So he is thinking the same thing. Firstly, there are a couple problems. Carson Wentz has had problems with injury. Whether he's injury prone or not, some of these are unlucky injuries like that. Concussion, that's not an injury prone thing. That's a dirty play. But he's had problems with injuries. If you have another very capable quarterback like Jalen Hurts come in, that's a good way to use him as well. There have been reports that they can use him like Taysom Hill is used in New Orleans, where he is sometimes a quarterback, sometimes a tight end, sometimes he rushes the ball. That could be something that Jalen Hurts can do for the Philadelphia Eagles as well. He can also just be developed as a really good backup quarterback until they potentially trade him like the New England Patriots did with Jimmy Garoppolo. What this pick is not is the Eagles giving up on Carson Wentz, although it looked like it initially. The Eagles are not giving up on Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is the future of the franchise, and they have reiterated that in an interview after the draft. Jalen Hurts is just a very good quarterback prospect. They could not pass up on this talent, according to GM Howie Roseman. They also said that they wanted to be a quarterback factory, which to me was a bit of a weird statement when you have a lot of problems. Again, this was not the first, second, or third best picks for me, but it has the potential to look back and it to be a steal of a pick, not necessarily for how he does for Philadelphia, but for how he does for someone else, or how maybe a team, you never know. They trade him in 3 or 4 years, they develop him really well, and they get a first-round pick and a third-round pick for him in a deal with blank team. I'm trying to pick a needle out of a haystack, really, with this pick.
You are. This was a brutal pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. They had needs, and a quarterback wasn't that at all. You're talking about replacing or giving a solid backup to Carson Wentz, who's injury prone. I can support that. Cam Newton's available. Jameis Winston's available. Don't throw a second-round pick on a quarterback that's probably not going to even see time on the field unless your quarterback gets injured. Secondly, is this another Andrew Luck situation? Is Carson Wentz kind of getting fed up? Are the Philadelphia Eagles preparing for the worst? Is Carson Wentz contemplating retirement? I know this is TMZ article headlines, but you got to ask the question: Is that a potential thing? The Niners traded for Trent Williams because they knew Joe Staley was going to retire. Are the Philadelphia Eagles selecting a quarterback because they know Carson Wentz is close to a decision like that? To us, Andrew Luck came out of nowhere, but maybe to the Eagles, they're trying to prepare themselves for the worst. Doesn't make a difference. To me, there's no proof of that being a thing, so I don't understand this. You guys had needs. You guys had so many needs. And this pick, love Jalen Hurts. I do love Jalen Hurts. I think he's a solid quarterback. I just don't understand why the Philadelphia Eagles spent such high draft capital on a quarterback. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't.
Yeah, there were too many needs. There were too many defensive needs. There was even offensive needs still. You could have double dipped on the wide receiver.
Yeah.
And that would have been a good pick. And the Eagles fan base basically exploded. I just want to say, for this is the case for a lot of picks in the draft. I would just want to say I don't want to close the book on this pick just yet, because this is the same guy, Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman, that firstly have made phenomenal trades for trades like Jordan Howard, Jay Ajayi, and especially Jay Ajayi, that helped them win the Super Bowl in 2017. This is the guy, Doug Peterson, that went through with the Philly special in the Super Bowl, got them that Super Bowl championship. So there's that level of respect that maybe there has to be some plan, but right now it's not looking good. But I'm not closing the book. I'm not saying that I hate this team and I want them all fired like some Eagles fans have said. I am hopeful that it works out. It's just, for me as a classic football fan, I do not see it.
Yeah, I'll have to agree. The quarterback in question is a talented one. The quarterback in question is one that I think will have a great NFL career. The quarterback in question is a quarterback who is going to be a solid quarterback for the years to come in the National Football League. I think Jalen Hurts is better than Jordan Love. I think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the draft. I fully agree. Jordan Love makes no sense. That's crazy.
That just goes back to that Jordan Love pick.
Yes. Very stupid. Stupid. Love to see it though as a Niners fan, because our chances of winning the conference are much higher now. But you know what? Jalen Hurts, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's going to be a phenomenal quarterback. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what the hell the Eagles are thinking here. But we got to move on with the final pick we're going to discuss. 54th overall to the Buffalo Bills. They're adding to that elite defense. The defensive end, A.J. Epinesa, at 6'5", 275 pounds, a huge defensive end. He has impressive production in high-impact stat columns and has the tools to be great. He needs to work on his technique and explosiveness according to National Football League scouts. In 2019, he had 49 total tackles and 10.5 sacks. Week combine led to the fall on draft boards. This guy probably would have been a top 40 pick, closer to the Gross Matos in selection proximity. But you know what? For the Buffalo Bills, they must be saying thank you to God for him falling into their laps. The week combine definitely helped him fall in the draft boards, but he can be the steal of the draft based on his potential, his skill set, and the draft value here for the Buffalo Bills. His father, fun fact, is former Falcons defensive tackle Jacob Toady Mariner. He's also a two-time first-team All-Big Ten in 2018 and 2019. I like AJ Epinesa, whatever. No disrespect, of course. I love this guy. I wanted the Niners to target him if they were going to get a second-round pick. I think, him would have been really good as a rotational guy for the 49ers to develop with some of the best talent. I really liked him. Buffalo got a solid guy for a solid defense, and that team is legit. They are the best team in their division. They are going to win their division without a doubt. Overall, I think the Buffalo Bills did great here, but I just wanted to mention, very interestingly, Jake Fromm went to the Buffalo Bills, I believe, and that's a little questionable. They drafted a quarterback with Josh Allen, sort of like the Eagles, a little weird. But overall, I think the Bills did good here. They did great, actually. Great pick, great talent, and just like Tua, I think this is an ultimate boomer bust.
What I'll say about Jake Fromm, just really quickly, he was drafted in like the 5th or 6th round. I don't have a problem with that. Even if he just ends up being a backup quarterback, I don't think Jake Fromm really was on a lot of people's lists as a future starter quarterback. He's a project. If he works out, he'll end up getting traded. Josh Allen is their guy. But for AJ Epinesa, whatever, I think it's a very good pick. Obviously, just supporting that defense, making it even better. That's what the Buffalo Bills run on, really, is their running game and their defense, and that really helps their defense get back. It just improves. It makes it scarier. It almost guarantees that AFC East division championship, but maybe the Jets sneak up on them. I'm just saying maybe. Maybe. I'm not saying definitely. I'm saying maybe. Because they're probably going to be the second best team, because I do not see the Patriots nor the Miami Dolphins doing much of anything this year, unfortunately, even with Tua. But that's a good I think that's a good final pick to end on. We have been running for a solid hour and 45 minutes or something. Or?
We have been talking for quite a bit. My voice is very dry, but I wanted to mention.
I need some water.
I hope y'all really enjoyed this episode. It was nice for NFL fans, football fans, sports fans, and fans in general to sit down for a few hours, the last 72 hours, and take their minds off of COVID-19. For everyone watching this, I hope you stay safe, you stay home, and you stay healthy. I just wanted to mention that we've worked really, really hard on this episode, and I hope you guys and girls really enjoyed it. Just look at the pages of pages. We have like 13 pages full of analysis for you guys and girls, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Noah really worked hard on this, and I did as well, but Noah really did. I hope you guys and girls really enjoyed this, because you know what? It was fun to talk about something and not talk about COVID-19 for like the last 2 hours. This was really fun. So everyone watching this, Noah, why don't you tell them where they can follow us on social media and where they can stream us on the platforms where they can stream us.
First, you can follow us on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at SENS Talk Podcast, and then you can stream us anywhere. Just pick a streaming service, and we're there. Spotify, Apple Play, Google Play, and of course SoundCloud at the Best of 7 Podcast, and we'll be there. Also, stream us on YouTube at SENS Talk. We're here to click that red button and make it great.
Yes, sir. I think that's a great way to end it off. So just a couple of notes. Firstly, thank you everyone for watching and supporting. I hope everyone watching this remains safe and healthy from COVID-19. I hope everyone enjoyed the National Football League draft as much as we did. And I hope everyone enjoyed this video and podcast episode as much as we did. It was a lot of fun to make, and it was a pleasure to do for you guys and girls. So once again, hopefully you guys remain stay safe and healthy, and I hope to see you next week. So thank you all for watching. It's been really fun. We've been talking for 2 hours. It's time to hit the hay a bit, get some sleep. We will see you next week. I don't really know what the episode's going to be. Noah, do you have any ideas yet?
Not yet. We'll just have to see what sports news comes up.
We may bring on a SENS or hockey host, so stay tuned for that. But besides that, Noah, any final comments?
Just Eagles for the Super Bowl. That's it. They're going to beat out the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. You heard it here first. Brandon and I will be watching together. It'll be Carson Wentz throwing it to, just give it to Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert touchdown in overtime, sends the Eagles to the Super Bowl. And then there's many Super Bowls to come after that.
I like the
15 interceptions.
Okay, I like the confidence, Noah. But to make the Super Bowl, you gotta get to the playoffs first. And it ain't no guarantee y'all are making the playoffs. So
easily
relax.
make the playoffs. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about us. Worry about you guys. No one.
Oh, I'm not worried. I'm very ecstatic. But before we go, I just wanted to. What would you give an overall grade for your team? What grade?
I would give the Eagles a. I'll give them a B because I think I liked a lot of their picks on paper. The Hurts pick just takes it down. That's about it. They even acquired Marquise Goodwin, another speedy wide receiver. They drafted a lot of speedy wide receivers, and that was something they needed. They drafted linebackers. They drafted even offensive tackle or two, and those were needs for the Eagles. That being said, a quarterback was not, and I gotta downgrade that to a B.
I would give the San Francisco 49ers, including the trades and everything, an A-. I think Kevin Kinlaw is going to be a fantastic defensive tackle. That front four is scary for offensive linemen for years to come. They replaced DeForest Buckner with a young, talented player that's cheap. They also replaced Emmanuel Sanders with a young, talented player that's cheap. They also got the best left tackle in the National Football League in Trent Williams for basically a 5th-round pick, because if somebody wants to sign Trent Williams, they'll tender him for a 3rd-round pick, and all we gave up is a 5th-rounder for the best left tackle. A- for sure. There was not many picks, but overall the moves and the cap space created in today's draft by the 49ers was fantastic. John Lynch was really wheeling and dealing, A- for sure. But that's where we're going to wrap it up. Thank you all for watching. Next week, we will see you then. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. This is Brandon Plant for the Best of 7 podcast, and we will see y'all next week. Thank you so much for watching, and we appreciate the support. Stay home. Thank you all for watching and listening, of course.